we are about to drop into a revolutionary moment in time, a period defined by, well, a massive psychological and intellectual shift in Europe. We're talking about the Renaissance, starting roughly in the 1400s. And you should forget the image of knights and castles for a moment. This was a complete reboot of how people viewed their world.
It was absolutely a fundamental shift. I mean, think of the Middle Ages. The central focus for everything, art, music, you name it, was the church.
Right, religious doctrine.
Exactly. What the Renaissance did was move that spotlight. People didn't stop being religious, but they started looking inward, exploring human emotions, celebrating individual achievement.
And what does that mean for you listening today?
Well, that philosophical earthquake fundamentally reshaped sound. So our mission here is to unpack how this era moved music from simple lines into these complex emotional structures.
Introducing new sounds and, critically, setting the stage for the modern system of harmony, the system that underpins, well, everything from Mozart to pop radio.
So where do we start? To trace that line from philosophy to sound, you have to start with the core concept. Humanism.
Humanism.
It was a cultural movement that placed immense value on human achievements, on reason, and individual expression. It sought balance, clarity, dignity, all inspired by ancient Greece and Rome.
That immediately changes the job description for a composer, right? It's not just about creating sounds to praise God anymore.
Not at all. Composers started writing music that reflected the actual meaning of the lyrics, celebrating human love, natural beauty, even sadness. The music became a mirror to human life on Earth.
It's descriptive.
That descriptive power was everything. Renaissance composers, they weren't just creating background noise. They saw themselves as, well, engineers of emotion.
Engineers of emotion, I like that.
They really believed music had the power to influence the character, the feelings of the listener, a concept they borrowed straight from Greek philosophy, so they strove for balance, clarity in their compositions. Every line had a purpose.
Okay, so you've got this huge philosophical shift, but big ideas only spread quickly when technology catches up, right?
Exactly. And the single biggest accelerator here was Johannes Gutenberg's printing press, around 1440.
If humanism was the spark, the printing press was the rocket fuel.
It's hard to overstate the difference. Before the press, imagine it. Music had to be copied slowly, by hand. A scribe could take months to reproduce one book of music.
Which made it incredibly rare and expensive.
And restricted. Pretty much only to monasteries, wealthy churches, and royal courts.
And then after the press.
Suddenly, you could produce music cheaply and in huge quantities. We know printers like Ottaviano Petrucci were churning out thousands of pieces by the early 1500s. Madrigal collections were selling hundreds of copies all over Europe.
And that speed and distribution had a lasting result for you, the amateur musician, right? The person at home.
For the first time, yes. People who weren't professionals, merchants, educated families that could buy books of songs, they could practice playing or singing at home. It democratized music.
And it standardized it. Before mass printing, notation was different everywhere.
Right, regional variations.
Now, because the printed copies were identical, the notation had to become universal. So a composer in Italy, like Josquin des Prez, could have his music performed perfectly in France or Germany.
And that spread new styles incredibly fast.
Okay, so let's dive into the sound itself, because the technical revolution was just as big as the technological one. When you listen to Renaissance music, it sounds dense.
Rich, complex. That's thanks to the dominant style, which was called polyphony.
Polyphony, let's break that down. It's pronounced P-L-F-U-N-E.
And it's essentially the art of weaving multiple threads together. It means you have two or more completely independent melodies being sung or played at the exact same time.
So it's like a conversation where everyone is talking, but they're all following their own equally important paths.
That's a great way to put it, and it created that rich and thick texture. It was a huge leap from the simpler, single-line chants of the Middle Ages.
The challenge for the composer must have been immense.
Oh, it was. They had to follow very strict rules, a system called counterpoint, to weave those lines together so they created harmony without clashing. It was a mathematical demonstration of pure skill.
And it's this mastery that leads to a huge harmonic shift, one that really matters for modern music. In the medieval period, composers avoided the interval of a third.
They did. Some even called it the diabolus in musica, the devil in music.
The devil in music, because it sounded dissonant to them.
It was seen as mathematically imperfect compared to other intervals. But the Renaissance completely changed that. Composers started using intervals like thirds and sixths all the time.
Why does that matter?
Because to our ears, those combinations sound incredibly consonant. Sweet. By prioritizing the aesthetic pleasure of the listener over strict mathematical purity, they totally redefined what sounded good.
Which is a very humanist decision. It's moving music from a spiritual exercise about divine perfection to an art form focused on human pleasure.
And that embrace of the third and the sixth is the single most important development that led directly to the modern system of chords and harmony we all use every day.
In everything from jazz to rock.
And if you want to see where that focus on expressive power really took off, you look at word painting.
Word painting, that sounds very modern. How did they use that to get so expressive?
It's the ultimate illustration tool. Word painting is a compositional technique where the music literally mimics the meaning of the words being sung.
The music becomes the narrator.
Exactly.
Can you give us a few examples?
Sure. They're often very literal. If the lyrics mentioned climbing a hill or ascending to heaven, the melody would, well, climb up in pitch.
Okay.
If the song talked about running, the notes would be really fast. If the lyrics mentioned death or weeping, the harmony might suddenly shift to a jarring, minor, darker key.
So it turns the music into an emotional journey. It lets the composer show off their creativity.
And it was a favorite tool of madrigal composers. It made their non-religious music much more descriptive. It's really the ancestor of all the film scores we hear today.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Now, music didn't just exist in a vacuum. It had three distinct social settings, right?
Yeah.
The church, the court, and the home.
And its function changed completely depending on where you were. Let's start with the church. Despite humanism, it was still the biggest and most important patron of music.
Demanding grandeur.
Absolutely. Cathedrals needed majestic music. Complex masses and motets, sung in Latin by highly trained professional choirs of men and boys.
And the buildings themselves were part of the instrument.
Yes. The acoustics of those massive stone cathedrals, with their long echoes, just amplified the polyphonic texture. It made the music sound truly heavenly, overwhelming.
Then you move to the royal court, and this is all about power and status.
Totally. Kings and queens hired full-time professional court musicians. And these weren't just servants, they were highly valued specialists.
Their job was to provide music for everything.
Everything. Grand fanfares when the king arrived, soft background music for dinners, and maybe most importantly, music for dancing. It had to be polished and versatile.
And then finally, you have the secular world, the home, where music just exploded in popularity.
Among all classes, this was music not for the church or the state. It was written in local languages, Italian, English, French, and it was about relatable things. Love, nature, everyday life.
And the star of the show here was the madrigal.
It originated in Italy, a piece for several voices singing together, but its purpose was intensely expressive. It used word painting and complex harmony to imitate the emotions of the lyrics with high drama.
Which made music social. People didn't just listen, they participated. Families and friends would gather after dinner to sing these for fun.
Often sight reading from those new printed books, it shows how music became a form of home entertainment, a challenge. It reflected that humanist ideal of the cultured, well-rounded individual.
So while the voice was king, instruments were still hugely important. The most popular instrument for the home was, what, the lute?
Definitely the lute.
The pear-shaped, plucked string instrument, it was everywhere.
It was the guitar of the Renaissance. You use it to accompany singers for complex solo pieces. It required incredible skill, and it was a real symbol of a cultured person.
And beyond the lute, what else did they have?
A huge variety. For quiet indoor music, you'd hear recorders and early flutes. But for outside, or if you needed volume, you'd use loud woodwinds like the shawm.
Which is really piercing, like an oboe.
Or the crumhorn, which had this unique buzzing sound. And then you had the strings. The varol was a whole family of instruments played with a bow, from tiny to huge.
And keyboards, of course.
The harpsichord and the organ were constantly being developed, letting composers explore all that new harmony.
But if we connect this back to daily life, probably the biggest driver for instrumental music was social dancing.
Oh, absolutely. It was the major form of entertainment, especially for nobles. They had to know the proper steps.
You had the slow, stately pavan.
Often for a grand entrance. And that would be followed immediately by the much faster, more energetic galliard.
And they'd use the same melody for both, just at different speeds.
Often, yes. The same tune, but one in a slow 2-beat rhythm and the other in a quick 3. And that constant need for a steady pulse so people could keep step was crucial in developing our modern concepts of rhythm and meter. The beat was king on the dance floor.
Now, this era wasn't just about ideas, it was packed with celebrity talent. These composers were the rock stars of their time.
For sure. Take someone like Josquin des Prez. He was celebrated across Europe for his incredible mastery of polyphony. His technique was just so smooth and controlled.
And then in Rome, you have Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina.
Almost entirely church music, his work is famous for its clarity. At a time when the church was questioning if polyphony was too confusing, Palestrina was credited with making the words easier to understand. He basically saved complex church music.
You also have figures like William Byrd in England, who had to navigate all that religious conflict.
A fascinating case. He was Catholic, but he wrote incredible music for both the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church of England, a testament to his talent and, well, his necessity.
And finally, Thomas Morley.
He's the one who took the Italian madrigal and made it famously English, catchy tunes, witty word painting. He defined the sound of Elizabethan England.
These figures took all these revolutionary ideas and just transformed sound itself.
The entire arc of the Renaissance is one of balancing freedom and form. It laid the foundation for the next great era, the Baroque period. The systems of notation, the harmonic framework, it was all either created or perfected in these 150 years.
So what does this all mean for you? Next time you hear a complex piece of music, a film score, a song with backing vocals, remember that the core impulse to use sound to paint human emotion and the ability to weave multiple melodies into a pleasing whole, that was a radical humanist invention.
It's the moment structure and emotion found their perfect balance.
And that idea that the highest art is the one that perfectly balances rational structure with genuine human feeling, that's a concept that remains relevant in every creative field 500 years later.
Something to think about. Good luck with your studies.